Hello, and welcome to the No and Iron podcast. This week, I have Cara Hunter, an MLA from the SDLP here to chat about women in politics. So, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
So my name is Cara Hunter and I'm the East Derry SDLP MLA. I've been in politics now for just 4 years. It was my 4-year anniversary there in May, and I've enjoyed every minute. I was a councillor before I was an MLA, and at one point I was also deputy mayor for Derry City and Strabane District Council.
And how has that been for you? How has the experience of being in politics been?
Yeah, so at the start, I found that it was quite nerve-wracking. I was only 23 when I first entered politics, and at the start, there wasn't really a lot of people, a lot of representation for young people in general, but really young women as well. And I was always extremely passionate about, I'm a passionate Irish nationalist. I care deeply about the people who live here, and I want to see our local communities have, the correct facilities, and especially I wanted to see change with regards to mental health and suicide in the north, and how we approach those issues and how we can best support people when they need it. So at the start, that was my real motivation. I had sadly lost someone very dear to me to suicide, and for me, I just wanted to use that as a positive sort of motivation for doing good things in politics. I always think politics sort of found me because I didn't aspire to enter it. It was just having that personal experience so close to myself. I was really disappointed at the collapse of the last assembly, where it was down for 3 years. And sadly, that's when my friend had passed away. And I was sort of angered, frustrated, because I thought to myself, we have a real suicide problem in Northern Ireland. And I felt it was left completely unaddressed. And there was issues with passing the Protect Life 2 strategy, which would contribute to tackling suicide here in the north. And sadly, when it comes to these kind of sensitive topics, there's so many people who've been affected by it or lost someone close. And for me, as a politician, I just really wanted to give a voice to that.
And the politics in Stormont it's changed quite a bit, hasn't it, throughout the years? And like you've saw in the council election, more centre parties are getting more support. But do you think the political landscape has changed for women?
When it comes to women, we have seen changes in, from a statistical perspective, with women now being 37.5% of MLAs here at the Assembly. I think that's fantastic. I think we are every sort of mandate, every election, we're hoping to see those gradual improvements and to get more women into politics. But sometimes I think we need to reframe the question. Instead of we need to get more women in politics, we need to ask why. Why are they not engaging? Why are they not putting their names forward? What can we do as elected reps? What can the electoral office do to really empower and support young girls, maybe perhaps your own age, young women, to think about going down the political line? When I was much younger, in my teens and early 20s, I didn't even know politics was even an option. I had my degree in broadcast journalism, and I thought you needed like a PhD in political philosophy or something of that nature. But I didn't realize, if you care about your community and you really want to just pour your heart and soul into doing what you can, that would be an option available to me. On the woman perspective and aspect of things, I'm 27. I'm getting married shortly. I'll start to think about having a family. And I've been in politics 4 years, and I couldn't tell you what maternity leave looks like. I couldn't tell you what my rights are, how much time I'm entitled to, or what that looks like. And I think it's issues like that are holding women from entering, because oftentimes I think women take on the most caring responsibilities. And that's the challenges that we're up against. Affordable and accessible childcare is a challenge. Breastfeeding in the workplace is a challenge. And these are the kinds of things I think I want to see more mothers in politics. I want to see we have some fantastic community leaders who continue to advocate, even in the absence of Stormont. We see in our local communities, in the community and voluntary sector, women, when they speak up, good things happen. So I think, people like myself in these sort of political roles, we need to make sure that framework of support is there. So when women think about entering politics, we don't want them to say, but what about X, Y, Z? I want to do all I can. In Stormont, we have a bar, but not a creche. So that sort of shows politics that I believe was male dominated. And these sorts of issues maybe haven't just been looked at just yet. But there is a growing sense between sort of female representatives of what can we do when we get into a position to help someone else come up the ladder. When I see that 37.5%, I'm delighted, but I also think we can do more. And the best way to do that is to question why women aren't coming into politics, as opposed to we just need more of them.
And you were mentioning a lot of those things, such as ways around maternity leave. Um, they sort of hold women from going into politics. What would you say to those women who feel held back?
I think what I would say is we need you. Firstly, I think I would say we really need we need women. We need a diverse group of women. We need women from ethnic minority backgrounds. We need refugee women. We want diverse representation at the table. And I think that the more diverse voices around that table, the better policy is shaped because different perspectives and different lifestyles, experiences, I believe make the best policy, and including those voices and advocates is so important. What I would say to those women is, we're trying right now to look at the different ways that we can make politics more inclusive. And Northern Ireland is an ever-changing place, which is fantastic. We do have an ever-changing sort of demographics. Even if you look here in South Belfast, where I currently am, it's fantastic to see the growing changes in income and asylum seekers, refugees, and just different ethnic minority backgrounds. So I would say we're putting in the good fight, but we really want to get more women involved. And I think we're starting to see that slight change, with the birth of social media. We're starting to see people that wee bit more politically engaged, which I think is fantastic. And some of those younger, more progressive voices are starting to really push through, which I think Northern Ireland really needed. And so I think that's a really positive step in change.
So when you're mentioning social media, do you think it's helped sort of women find a voice?
I think social media is what I would say is like a double-edged sword. Like, while there's many positive benefits, and I think it gives women a platform to be heard and a platform to be seen, it gives that opportunity for people to comment or to hassle or to write mean things. And certainly in my own experience in the last election, I had a really negative experience where, I was sort of used in I don't know how you would define it because it's not considered a crime. So, someone had shared a fake clip, which is pornographic, and had put out the message that it was me in this clip. And I had taken it to police, and police had said, this is not a crime. And I said, but it's not me, surely this is defamation of character. And they had said, look, really sorry to hear you're going through this. This isn't a crime. And it was being widely spread on social media. So I've always felt when something like that happens, you think, oh my goodness, social media is this horrible, ever-changing platforms where harm can be created, so online harm towards female representatives. But then it is also the most wonderful tool to engage with your constituents, to learn their stories, to go back and forth very quickly with them, and to show the variety of things that you do in a day and how hard you really are working. But for me personally, since that happened to me, it was an extremely difficult thing to go through. I think it would be difficult for anybody. We have raised multiple times online harm is not a devolved issue. So we have raised and lobbied the Minister for Media and Digital Culture at the time, and we as MLAs here in the Northern Irish Assembly came together under the previous Justice Minister, to share our stories and to say, we understand in this role we are bound to receive criticism, and I welcome criticism. I'm here. I'm happy to hear it. I love a debate. But I also think that there's a limit. And in politics, we shouldn't normalize harm or online image-based abuse because it's not normal. And lies can ruin lives. They can ruin reputations. And it's very hard, I think, as a woman sometimes, we have to try very hard to be taken seriously. And when something like that happened to me, I've thought, oh goodness, you work years to build reputation and build trust with your constituents and relationships, and then overnight that can be taken away based on a lie. So I do love social media from the perspective of you can share stories and learn stories, but then again, it always has that negative side. And I would like to see more movement from social media giants because I feel they really do have that moral and professional duty to act, and we haven't seen that yet.
And a lot of women may actually be concerned about that harassment and may fear the safety of themselves and their loved ones. What would you say to them with regards to that?
I think that even when I look at the last local council elections that have just passed there, we had, like I said, I'm a big advocate for getting as many women into politics, and I knew some really inspiring, fierce leaders within my constituency, and I thought, when the time was right, I'm going to go for. I'm going to ask these incredible women. Luckily, a few of them did say yes, and we had them on the ballot paper, and I think they threw the most fantastic campaigns. But sadly, there was other women who, when they looked at what had happened to me or had happened in other parts of Northern Ireland to other representatives, they thought, you know what, I'm not this time. So I would say to those women is, I understand their reluctance. I understand why they would feel, it's not for me. And I would say, take comfort in knowing that we really are, we're doing all we can to really try and get these laws changed. And I think, I'd raised the issue with what happened to me with the electoral office, and I found comfort in the fact that they were listening and they took it seriously. But, we're a year on. I really am concerned that, we can't, like I said, we can't normalize harm towards women in election cycles. Because in our job, your election is essentially, it's how you keep your job. It's your interview with the public again. So something like this is completely undermining your genuine hard work. And I don't think that's fair for any candidate, not just women. And I think that, I would like to see laws changed. I would like to see more cybercrime efficiency from our police service. Because I was very much told we will not be able to identify, we wouldn't have the capacity to do that. Best of luck. And I sort of felt, we can do so much better. Because if this was my daughter or something, I don't have a daughter, but, in time, if this, I would just feel so angered that they're in a public platform and the police service were so limited in their capacity to assist and to help. And I think we can do so much better.
And every time you see a story like this of a woman getting harassed, you get all the condemnation and all the support. But it happens again, the next year after. So is there anything you think that maybe parties together could do to sort of just stop the cycle?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I mean, the one good thing that did come out of everything from the last election for myself was we did have the online forum group, which I touched on briefly there. It was essentially all the MLAs, female MLAs, but we had a John from the Ulster Unionist Party as well there, just feeding in, it's interesting when we went around the room, nobody was immune to any abuse. And abuse comes in many forms, it's not always online. Sometimes it's behavior in person. I just couldn't believe when I first entered politics, it's an extremely, from a health and safety perspective, the job is fascinating because you knock on the doors of strangers, essentially to ask for support. And sometimes you're in rural areas, it's dark outside. I always thought that was fascinating because it was just so unlike any other job I'd ever had before. And sometimes when you raise these things, people think, oh, the woman card, here we go, victim narrative. And it's not. It's more about you want to ensure female representatives are equipped with the knowledge of how to keep themselves safe and to know their rights as well. At the start, when I was a politician, I would just go into strangers' house and sort issues for them. And I kind of look back thinking, God, if you went to the wrong house or somebody lured you out, you just don't know what could happen. But it was interesting when we were in the online forum going around and hearing different stories from different MLAs. I definitely felt that in a strange way that what I had experienced wasn't unique. And I found that quite comforting to hear other lived experiences and the pressure to, when you are in politics, you really want to work hard and to show you're working hard and do all the things. And, your shift goes on in the daytime, but at your own expense of health and safety, you will do things. If you're the only female rep in an area, for example, you'll just have to go out and just get it done. And this was one thing I had raised. I was on the Derry City and Strabane District Council, just about, how our council's looking at ensuring councillor safety, because I found it very strange. We had nowhere safe to meet. We weren't given a safe space, an office in the council to meet with constituents. And I always thought, oh, that's so strange. So what I would do is pay out of pocket to go to a library or pay out of pocket to go to a coffee shop. Then Of course, if you're meeting 5 different constituents at 5 different times of the day, that's quite expensive. So I really advocated for, I just wanted them to do an assessment of what they could offer, just so that every counsellor, equally man, woman, however they identify, has a safe space to operate within. So I think when we ask again, why are women not entering politics? I just don't think the playing field is that even yet. I really, really don't. I do know while there is some positive changes, there is still a long way to go. And I think that the collaboration that we see via the online forum was really welcome. And like I did say there, the electoral office and the police service, I do see steps to recognise the depth and the size of the problem. But it's how can we collectively put our heads together to get it solved, because I wouldn't wish what happened to me on my worst enemy. Not that I even think I have a worst enemy, but it's just that, women, any rep does not deserve to be put down in such a way at the hands of a lie. I think that was quite cruel, and social media was used to do that.
And with the forum, how does it make you feel that you've got a network of people to support you?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think that as political reps, we all have our own experiences and journeys with online harm. Having the online forum discussions, I think, did help, because at the start, I felt like, am I a crybaby? Is this not as bad? Sort of gaslit myself a bit, being like, maybe I just need to toughen up a bit. But no, the reality was that other people had very similar experiences. And I think it's a conversation I think a lot of people really don't take seriously, because politicians are just not well liked generally. People like to believe, that there's a level of corruption identified with every politician. It's just not true. We're just people at the end of the day, and we have feelings like everybody else. And for me, I just thought this is such a broad issue, that unless addressed, unless raised publicly, getting uncomfortable to ensure that there's change is really important. So I find the online forum very helpful.
I'm in uni at the moment, and you see the leadership, even at student level, like some of the student leaders can receive like harassment. What would you advise to people who are going through a sort of harassment at any career, any point of their life?
Yeah, so this is actually a really interesting question, because we had said at the online forum group, we are given a platform to dispel myths or lies about ourselves. But if you are a young person in a playground, at a school, like you said, maybe like a student leader, you don't have the same platform to say, I'm going to call a journalist and say, hey, that wasn't me, this isn't fair. We're blessed in that sense to clear our name with the facts, and we can go to journalists. And that's where my heart hurts for people who maybe don't have the best channels to, get it out there that, their innocence, or their, when people are dealing with a lot of abuse or a lie, it is so, so difficult. My advice would be reach out to your family, because these can be very isolating incidents. When you feel like you're being publicly humiliated or harmed, it just is so intrusive. And I think with online harm specifically, people think it's just a joke online. It's just a rumor online. And no, like I'm sitting in my kitchen, with my phone. I can see what you're writing, and for people who are maybe in student leadership, don't let it deter you. Because sadly, I think with social media, these kinds of criticisms in some respects are just going to be something that, a lot of it is just nonsense, and just put it out of your mind. But don't be afraid to recognize when a boundary has been crossed as well, and to notify the correct people, whether it's the police, a parent, a teacher, or a student union, or a rep. Maybe it's at your work you're experiencing abuse. Don't be afraid to reach out for help, because like from a mental health perspective, I think it's so important to ensure that people speak up about these things, because no one deserves a level of abuse in any capacity, in any sector, in any job or role. And while criticism is a normal part of life, we shouldn't normalize complete abuse.
And is there anything you would like to add?
Maybe just to remind, our young people, if, they are listening to this or they are considering entering politics, I personally don't think you're ever too young. I don't think you're ever too young. I think if you care, about the place that we live in, you care about its people, and you care about creating positive change, the only person that limits you is yourself. My advice would be, if you're thinking about getting politically involved, reach out to a political party, or if you want to consider standing independent, find out how to do that. And just get involved and get engaged and, have your voice heard. And you can always volunteer with political parties and contribute to different campaigns. So I would encourage anybody thinking of getting involved, please do.
And is there any support mechanisms for new young people or women or anyone joining politics? Like, because you have a women's forum for MLAs, is there anything like that for councillors or for people who are part of the youth?
I think that's a great question. I mean, I think there's NILGA, which is like a councillor local government association. And I think oftentimes if you have any issues or experiences that you're not happy with, you can ask them for advice and support. There's also, I believe, a local government ombudsman as well. So if you do seek any support or you do have any problems, you can go there. And there's also support within your own party. And as an elected representative, as an MLA, we actually get offered Inspire Wellbeing. So we get counselling opportunities there. I can't recall, it's been 4 years now, I'm getting old, what local council offered during my time. That may have changed also. But I would say, always raise something with your party if you feel like you need support, because when it comes to things like mental health or abuse you're experiencing, it is so, so important that you really open up. And nothing can ever be, a problem shared is a problem halved. I'm a firm believer in that. So always speak up and speak out.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with me. That's it for today. Till next time, stay tuned and we'll talk later.